Hello everyone and welcome to this new video about RollerCoin. Today in our tutorial for new players we will be covering a topic that has become critical to our survival and growth, especially since the bonus was dropped from all new base level miners. We are talking about the merge system, through which we will be able to create more powerful miners and components in general, by combining objects of lower quality. If you haven't registered on RollerCoin yet, you want to take advantage of a small initial bonus, and you want to support this channel to produce new videos, consider registering using the link in the description of this video. It is absolutely not mandatory, but if you do it, it is something that costs you nothing, and for that I thank you. To understand how the merge system works, we must first know the miner level concept, which was introduced relatively recently, except for my memory errors during the previous season, the number 6 to be precise. Originally in RollerCoin the miners could have unique and defined characteristics. You bought, or somehow procured, a miner, and it remained so for its entire existence. If you wanted more power you had no alternative, you had to get another miner, then another and so on, there was no other way. In fact, if you happen to observe the room of some historical player, you will notice how they literally have walls of miners that are also all the same, something that today would no longer make sense as we will see shortly, but originally there weren't many other options. If you wanted more computing power you could only buy new miners in industrial quantities. The first novelty that has been introduced is a bonus coefficient associated with each type of miner. We will use as an example a chupacabra, which is a miner that, sooner or later, everyone ends up knowing and possessing. In this case we can see that the basic level chupacabra, and I repeat that originally there was this one basic level for everyone, has a bonus coefficient of 1%. This is an interesting thing and continues to be a very important aspect of the game, even now that things have changed a bit. This bonus ensures that, even if we only have one or more miners of this type in our inventory, our computing power is automatically and free of charge increased by an extra percentage, equal to the sum of all the bonuses of all the miners we own. The important thing is that the bonus is calculated only once for each type of miner. For example, if I have a chupacabra in my inventory I will get a 1% bonus. If I have 2, 10, 1,000, I always get 1%. If I want to increase my total bonus, I need to get a different miner type. You will understand that the purpose is obvious. The player is pushed to undertake a collection of all the miners in the catalog. After all, this concept is still valid today. The bonus percentage that we see on our homepage is exactly the sum of the bonuses of all our miners, each taken only once. What problem could arise? Well, it's easy to guess. If at the beginning entry-level miners were indispensable, there were no alternatives. As a player got stronger he naturally tended to get more powerful miners. Since the space available in the rooms, even if expandable up to the number of 4, was still limited, the top players housed the best performing miners in the racks, and soon ended up finding mountains of obsolete and unused miners in the warehouse. The marketplace didn't even exist yet, so all this equipment was left to rust in the warehouse. At this point, the idea of being able to recycle unused miners was born, introducing the possibility of creating a more powerful miner starting from 2 standard quality miners, with the addition of some components such as fans, wiring and electronic boards. The new miner would have had superior characteristics compared to the sum of the 2 single starting miners. The process could have been repeated numerous times, and the level of the miner produced would have been highlighted by a star-based ranking. In fact, this was phase 1 of the merge process. Today only the very first miners with a star that were crafted with this mechanism survive, because later, with Season 6 as I anticipated a moment ago, the current system was introduced which instead replaced the stars with a colored tag. Here we see an example of one such miner. Today, they are defined as legacy and can no longer be improved further. They are and will remain so. They have remained as a memory of the past. There are only those that are in circulation today. Others cannot be produced. Anyone wishing to get one cannot do otherwise than buy it in the marketplace if it is available. If you are wondering if they are still worth having, the answer is yes, because their features are far better than those of modern miners of the same level. And we have finally come to the present day. The current merge mechanism allows, starting from two miners of the same type and equal level, to use them to create a new one of a higher level. In addition to the miners, a certain amount of components will also be needed, which varies according to the type and level of miners we are producing. The two starting miners will be destroyed, and the obtained miner will have better characteristics than the sum of the original miners. This process can be repeated up to 5 times. A colored tag visually indicates what level a miner is. For convenience, let's use the roller arc miner as an example, which we are sure to find in the marketplace in all its variants, so we can have an overview of all the possible levels. Miners without any tags are standard or first-level miners. Even a gray tag, in some cases, can indicate a base level, especially when we will see the components. New miners all start at this level. The components that we get by opening the chests, as we saw in a previous episode, also belong to this level. The miners with 1 star are the legacy ones, as we saw earlier. They can no longer be improved and are doomed to oblivion. The second level is represented by a green tag and is called uncommon. To create an uncommon miner, you need 2 standard miners. The next level, the third, is called rare and is identified by a blue tag. Rare miners are better than uncommon, and so on. I am pretty sure you have already understood the mechanism. 2 rare miners create an epic miner, level 4, identified by a fuchsia tag. Level 5 or legendary is identified by a yellow tag. The last level a miner can be brought to is level 6, or unreal. Miners with a red tag are top of the line and are not upgradable any further. Bringing a miner to unreal level is equivalent to reaching the maximum power and maximum bonus obtainable from that model of miner. Now that we know all the possible miner levels, let's move quickly into the warehouse to see how the same dynamics are also applied to components such as electronic hashboards, wiring and fans. What you see, for example, is my inventory. You can see that I have available level 1 or gray parts, level 2 parts in green, etc., etc. Now that we understand how miner and component levels work, let's try to merge 2 miners together. Let's go to my mining room where we can get an overview. What we want to do is, for example, use these 2 green, uncommon level roller arcs to create a new rare level miner with the blue tag. First, I remove the 2 miners from the rack so I can have them in my inventory. This operation is not essential. The merge would work anyway, but for us it is more convenient to have the objects already in the inventory so that the process is more evident. As you see, now my 2 uncommon miners are at my disposal. Let's move to the warehouse/laboratory. Here we see all the formulas available to craft new miners. We can, for example, filter by the type of miner that interests us. The game also accommodates us by enabling only recipes that we can complete, of which we have all the ingredients. If we don't have all the components, we will see the formula disabled. For example, in this case, I lack the 2 miners to be able to execute this merge. Instead, here we see what interests us. We can see that we have all the necessary components. In fact, the merge button is enabled and we can proceed with the operation. We need the 2 starting miners, a fan, a hashboard, and an uncommon level cable. We have everything. This operation will cost us 1 cent of RLT, as we can see here. In other words, when you merge a miner but also any component, you must bear in mind that the final total cost must be considered as the cost of the 2 starting miners, the cost of all the components, and finally the production cost. Keep this in mind because we are now crafting a ridiculous miner, but in case of more powerful miners, they are not negligible costs. Do your math before burning money in components. Once you click on the button, there is no going back. The original parts will be destroyed and only the newly created object will remain. And now let's proceed. I click on merge and observe the magic. Congratulations! We have crafted our new miner, which we can find in our inventory, and to do so we will go to our home, and here it is. We can put it to work right away with all the others. Don't be scared if the system doesn't recalculate the stats immediately. Obviously we've now modified a negligible hash power, but with powerful miners it could be more evident. Give the server time to align and implement the changes. They will tell you that everything works in real time, but believe me, it's not really like that. If you prefer, you can also refresh the page. As regards the merging of components, the mechanism is exactly the same. We find a special tab with all the formulas to be applied to fans, cables and hashboards. You will quickly realize that merging objects in general is not a cheap operation. For example, 50 regular wires are needed to make one uncommon wire. That's right, 50 standard items to create only one higher level. If you want my opinion, this doesn't make any sense. The reality is that a whole series of very questionable choices made in the past has led today to an excessive proliferation of components that the RollerCoin team now wants to make us dispose of in some way. A pity that these components are mostly finished in the warehouse of already very strong players who do absolutely nothing with them, except put them up for sale at exaggerated prices to make even more money. It is yet another confirmation that new players on RollerCoin, especially if free-to-play, will have an ever harder life. But courage! Arguments are useless. That's how the game works today, so people roll up your sleeves and get in on the action. Those who don't have components in stock can get them either by opening the boxes that we have already seen in the previous episode about the store, or by buying them in the marketplace using RLTs. Very well, we are almost at the end of this long video, but this topic was particularly important to require the right attention. We will conclude, as always, with some reflections. Does it make sense to merge miners? The answer, as you will easily imagine, is always, it depends. New miners, starting from a certain date, are produced without any bonus. In other words, the basic level miner has a 0% bonus. The bonus, however, represents a fundamental element in determining our computing power. At first we don't realize it. If we only have low-level miners and a poor computing power obtained only from games, the bonus will have a practically negligible effect for us. But you understand how, if we start talking about more consistent computing power, having a bonus of 50 or 100% really starts to make a difference. So a wise choice should be to have at least one miner of each type to make the most of the bonus effects. Consequently, new miners must be brought to at least the uncommon level for them to be effective in this sense, as they do not offer any bonuses at the base level. From this point of view, we could therefore say that the first level of merge is almost fundamental. But always pay attention to the costs. We have seen that even producing or buying components has a cost. I advise you not to try to calculate how much a single epic or legendary self-produced component costs because you would get scared. The merge procedure has a cost. Now you have all the elements to do your math and, if you deem it appropriate, proceed with the upgrade of your equipment. There is also another aspect to take into consideration. We have seen how, in the merge process, the two original miners are destroyed, only the best one that was produced remains in our inventory. This means that if we only had those 2 miners of that level available, we will lose the specific bonus for that level, if they were intended to have one. So in short, sometimes it is better to calculate exactly the most appropriate moment to merge 2 miners. The best condition is always to wait until you have 3 miners of the same type before doing a merge. In this way, even by merging the first 2, we will be able to enjoy the bonus of both levels. I'll tell you differently. Let's say you have 32 level 1 miners, you would definitely be tempted to upgrade to 2 Unreal level miners. It is true, in the end you would have 2 very powerful miners, but in reality it is not the most advantageous solution. The best thing to do would be to have in your inventory an uncommon level, a rare, an epic, a legendary and finally an Unreal miner. In this way you would get the bonus from each level, and I assure you that the final effect is better than having only 2 Unreal miners. I hope that the concept is clear to you, otherwise let me know if you need to elaborate further. Well, once again we have come to the conclusion. As always, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful in some way. And see you soon for a new topic of this free-to-play RollerCoin tutorial. See you soon!